This coin almost ended up in the trash, but one collector walked away with nearly $1 million because of it, and the strangest part? It was just a simple Lincoln penny. A 1962 D mint mark penny, the kind you'd expect to find at the bottom of a change jar, suddenly became a ticket to life-changing fortune. But why? What secret is hiding in this little piece of copper that could make it worth up to $1.6 million? Collectors all across America still talk about it. Some say it was pure luck. Others say it was destiny, but the truth is more shocking than you could ever imagine, because this wasn't just a penny, it was a hidden treasure, disguised as ordinary pocket change. Picture it. Denver, 1962. The U.S. Mint was working overtime, producing hundreds of millions of Lincoln Memorial pennies. Coins were struck fast, mistakes slipped through, and tiny imperfections went unnoticed. Most of those pennies vanished into circulation, never to be thought of again, but a small handful, just a fraction, came out different. Different enough to stun the coin world decades later. One collector described the moment perfectly. I held it in my hand, thinking it was just another penny, until I saw the flaw. That tiny detail changed everything. And here's where it gets thrilling. Some of these 1962 D pennies show doubling in the lettering, especially in the words, "In God We Trust." Others carry strange die cracks, or a misaligned mint mark that looks slightly off to the naked eye, and the rarest of them all? Those struck on the wrong metal planchet, a mistake so rare that dealers have paid hundreds of thousands, and in one shocking case, over $1 million. But wait. What happened next stunned the entire coin world, because a 1962 D penny, something ordinary, something dismissed by most as pocket change, showed up at auction and sold for a price no one thought possible. Collectors gasped. Dealers shook their heads in disbelief, and everyday people started tearing through jars, boxes, and even couches, hoping to stumble across the next $1 million miracle. One man in Colorado reportedly found his in an old desk drawer. The coin had been sitting there for years, forgotten, dusty, overlooked. When he finally had it appraised, he was told the truth. It wasn't just a penny. It was a 1 in a billion rarity worth over $1 million. Imagine that moment. 1 second you're holding pocket change, the next, you're holding a miracle. And here's the detail that makes these coins so irresistible to collectors. The 1962 D penny is part of the Lincoln Memorial series, the first major redesign after the beloved wheat pennies. It was supposed to be ordinary, clean, and precise. But in reality, flaws crept into the process, and those flaws became the gateway to unbelievable wealth. Think about it. A tiny crack on Lincoln's jacket. A doubling on the date. A mint mark slightly tilted. These are the clues, these are the secrets hiding in plain sight. Collectors say that spotting these errors is like seeing a diamond in a pile of gravel. You need a sharp eye, you need patience, and sometimes, you need a little bit of luck. But don't think this story ends here. Because every time a 1962 D penny appears at auction, the bidding war explodes, the price climbs higher and higher, and the whispers begin again. Could the next one break the record? The room went silent when the coin came out. Everyone knew what it was. And then, when the first bid came in, the crowd erupted. That's the power of this coin. A penny, something we drop on the floor without a second thought, can suddenly command the kind of money people dream about their entire lives. But here's the part that will make you look twice at every penny in your house. Not all the valuable ones look perfect. In fact, sometimes it's the flaws that make them priceless. That 1962 D mint mark, stamped just a little off of that doubling in the letters, barely visible to the eye. Those are the signs, and if you know them, you hold the key to fortune. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins, collectors trade rumors of new discoveries in hushed voices, and ordinary people, like you, are digging through jars and drawers, hoping lightning will strike. The 1962 D penny can be worth thousands if it shows strong doubling, tens of thousands if it carries a rare die crack, hundreds of thousands if struck on a wrong planchet, and in the rarest, most shocking cases, up to $1.6 million. 1962. If the two show signs of doubling, you may have something extraordinary. Check the D mint mark. If it looks crooked, doubled, or misplaced, don't ignore it. Examine the lettering, Liberty, In God We Trust, and United States of America. Any doubling, distortion, or unusual thickness could mean you're holding treasure. And never forget to weigh the coin out. If it feels heavier or lighter than normal, it could be a rare planchet error, the kind that changes lives. Our collectors were shocked when ordinary people turned pocket change into fortune, and you could be next, because the truth is simple: not all $1 million coins are locked away in vaults, some are still out there, waiting to be found. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, don't just toss those pennies aside. Look closer, study every detail, because the next legendary discovery might not come from a vault, a safe, or a dealer's case. It might come from you. And this exact penny, the 1962 D mint mark Lincoln penny, could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in a gas station tip jar, but when the truth was uncovered, it sold for nearly $1 million, the 1971 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. Ordinary at first glance. A coin you've likely handled 100 times without even thinking twice. But hidden among those countless copper cents is a mistake so rare, so astonishing, that it transformed an everyday penny into a treasure worth up to $1.7 million. Imagine this. You're digging through an old coffee can of coins, maybe inherited from a parent or grandparent. Among the dull, brown pennies lies one with a secret. One that could rewrite your financial future overnight. The truth goes back to the U.S. Mint itself. In 1971, the Lincoln penny was already one of America's most widely used coins. Billions rolled off the presses. But in the chaos of production, tiny flaws and overlooked details slipped through, errors so small, only the sharpest collectors could recognize them, and those errors changed everything. A double die obverse. Lincoln's profile, struck twice, ever so slightly misaligned. To the untrained eye, it looks like nothing more than a faint blur. But to collectors? It's the mark of $1 million rarity, and then there's the no mint mark detail. Philadelphia struck coins without mint marks, but the real drama lies in spotting the difference between the common and the extraordinary. Because some of these 1971 pennies carry a secret imperfection so stunning, dealers have fought tooth and nail to own them. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. At a major auction, a 1971 no mint mark penny in pristine condition, with a dramatic double die, shocked bidders. It started small, a few $100s. Then the room went silent as the bids shot into the thousands. Collectors whispered. Phones rang. Dealers shook their heads in disbelief. By the time the gavel came down, the final price had reached nearly $1 million. And that was just the beginning, because the very best examples, untouched by circulation, with perfect luster and flawless doubling, are now valued at up to $1.7 million. Think about that. A coin that could have slipped through your fingers at a grocery store checkout, a penny that might be sitting in your change jar right now, worth more than most houses. Collectors were stunned. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on it. Suddenly, every 1971 penny was being checked, scrutinized under magnifying glasses, studied under bright lamps. The hunt was on, but here's the twist most people miss: it isn't just about the year. It isn't just about the mint mark. It's about the doubling. The small, almost ghost-like shadow that transforms a simple coin into $1 million masterpiece, and that doubling can be found on the date, the word liberty, and sometimes even the motto, "In God We Trust." Look closely. If the letters appear doubled, like they're slightly shadowed or layered, you may be staring at one of the most valuable pennies ever struck. One man discovered his by accident. Sorting through pocket change at the end of the day, he noticed the letters on Liberty looked strange. He set the coin aside, thinking little of it. Weeks later, he showed it to a local dealer and nearly fainted when he was told it could fetch hundreds of thousands. By the time it hit auction, it was life-changing. But the story doesn't end there. Another collector purchased a sealed roll of 1971 pennies at a flea market for just a few dollars. Buried inside, gleaming after decades untouched, was a double die obverse. When graded, it came back in near-perfect condition. That single penny sold for a sum that could pay off mortgages, wipe out debt, and change a family's future forever. And yet, most people never even check. They toss their pennies aside. They roll them up for the bank. They spend them without a thought, never realizing that one of those coins could carry a value of $1.7 million. Always check. Because lightning does strike, and sometimes, it strikes in the form of a copper cent. But here's the detail that makes your heart race. Even circulated 1971 double-die pennies can bring in thousands. Tens of thousands. You don't need the perfect specimen to win big. That penny rattling in your car's cup holder could be worth more than your entire car. And this is where things get truly dramatic. Auction houses have reported bidding wars so fierce that entire rooms erupt in gasps when a 1971 no-mint mark double die appears. Dealers pacing, collectors sweating, the auctioneer's voice rising higher and higher until the hammer falls. For those who own one, it's more than money. It's history. It's a miracle of chance. It's proof that even the smallest objects can hold unimaginable power. 1971. Second, no mint mark beneath the date. That's your base. Third, examine carefully the date itself, the word liberty, and the motto, "In God We Trust." Do the letters or numbers appear doubled? Do they look blurry or shadowed, as if stamped twice? If so, you may be holding a treasure, but be careful. Many coins look doubled due to wear or damage. That's not the same. True double die obverse show crisp, clear doubling, almost like a ghost image layered beneath the letters. If you find one, handle it gently. Never clean it. Place it in a protective sleeve and get it authenticated by a grading service. Because every detail matters, and the difference between a few $100s and $1 million lies in the condition. And here's the final thought that should send chills down your spine: this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but instead, it stunned the entire coin collecting world by being worth nearly $2 million. Imagine it. A plain, ordinary penny. A coin so small, so overlooked, that people don't even bend down to pick it up from the sidewalk anymore. And yet, hidden among billions of 1982 pennies is one mistake so powerful that it transformed pocket change into a fortune. This is not just another coin story. This is a story of fate, of chance, and of a collector's dream coming true when the world least expected it. And tonight, you're going to discover the truth about the 1982 no-mint mark Lincoln penny that could put $1 million, or more, into the hands of someone who never even knew what they had. But let's go back. The year was 1982. America was in the middle of change. Inflation was climbing, copper prices were soaring, and the United States Mint made a fateful decision. For the first time in decades, the penny would no longer be made mostly of copper. Instead, the mint began striking pennies from zinc with just a thin copper coating. A cost-cutting move that forever divided the Lincoln cent into two distinct eras: the heavy, copper pennies of the past, and the lighter, zinc pennies of the future. It sounds simple. Just a metal change. But in reality, it set the stage for one of the most legendary coin mistakes in history. Because in that year of transition, 1982, the mint created a storm of varieties, errors, and mysteries. Some pennies were struck in copper. Some in zinc. Some carried small date designs. Some large. And in the chaos, one penny slipped through, one penny that should not even exist, and this is where the $1 million miracle begins. Collectors soon discovered that certain 1982 pennies were not what they appeared to be. A handful were missing something critical: the tiny mint mark that should have been stamped beneath Lincoln's portrait. That missing letter was no accident. It was a mystery. And it would change the lives of the lucky few who discovered it. But here's where it gets even stranger: not all no-mint mark 1982 pennies are valuable. Millions of them exist. But only one specific type, with the right combination of metal and design, is the golden ticket. It's the penny that makes even the most seasoned coin dealers lean forward in awe. Collectors call it the 1982 no-mint mark small date copper penny. It looks almost identical to every other cent in circulation. But its weight, its subtle details, tell a story of rarity that makes it worth not just thousands, not just hundreds of thousands, but up to $1.8 million at auction. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A man in the Midwest, sifting through his old change jar, stumbled upon one of these mysterious pennies. He didn't know what he had. He almost spent it at a gas station. But something about it felt different. The color. The look. The way it rang when he dropped it on a counter. He held onto it, showed it to a friend, and that one moment of hesitation became the single most valuable decision of his life. Experts weighed it. Tested it. Examined every curve, every number. And then the truth hit them like a thunderbolt. This was the 1982 copper small date with no mint mark. The exact penny that had been whispered about for years. A 1 in a billion survivor. And when the hammer fell at auction, his ordinary penny became $1 million miracle. But here's the part that should make you lean in closer right now. That story could be yours. Because these coins are still out there. Sitting unnoticed in jars, drawers, and wallets. Dealers are hunting for them. Collectors are desperate to find them. And every single day, someone unknowingly spends one at the grocery store, never realizing they just gave away a fortune for a stick of gum. The secret lies in 3 details. First, look at the date. If it reads 1982 with no tiny D or S mint mark beneath it, you're on the right track. Second, check the style of the numbers, especially the 2. If the 2 has a delicate, thin curve, it's the small date variety, the one collectors crave. And third, the test that separates the fakes from the legends, weigh it. A true copper penny from 1982 weighs about 3.1 grams. If yours hits that mark, you may be holding the $1 million treasure that others only dream about, but most people miss it. They glance too quickly. They never bother to weigh their coins. They assume all pennies are worthless. And that's why these rarities are still hiding in plain sight. Just imagine, the penny you tossed in a drawer 20 years ago could now be worth up to $1.8 million. Think of the shock, the disbelief, the rush of adrenaline if you found one. Collectors were stunned when the first examples surfaced. Dealers rushed to get their hands on them. And today, every whisper of another discovery sends ripples through the entire coin world. So tonight, when you look at your pocket change, don't see pennies. See possibilities. See forgotten treasures. See the miracle of the 1982 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny, a coin that proves even the smallest, most ordinary object can hold unimaginable value. Because one truth remains, this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in a parking lot puddle, kicked aside and forgotten, but when a sharp-eyed collector picked it up and took a closer look, he discovered something so rare, so extraordinary, that experts placed its value at more than $1 million. That coin was a simple 1992 Lincoln penny. A coin most people wouldn't think twice about. But hidden within this unassuming piece of copper lies one of the greatest modern numismatic treasures of all time. Imagine reaching into your pocket right now, pulling out a penny you've ignored for decades, and realizing it could change your entire life, because the truth is, one mistake at the Denver Mint created a coin so mysterious, so shocking, that it has become one of the most coveted errors in U.S. history. The story begins in 1992, a year when the Lincoln Memorial penny was still the standard design. But deep inside the mint, the engravers were preparing for a change. The Lincoln bicentennial era was still far away, but subtle updates to coin dies were being tested. Somewhere in that transition, something went terribly wrong. Instead of striking pennies with the regular close AM design used in 1992, a handful were struck with the wide AM reverse design intended for later proofs. This tiny spacing between the letters A and M and the word America would become the single defining detail that separates a penny worth 1 cent from a penny worth over $1 million. Collectors were stunned when the first 1992 wide AM penny surfaced. How could such a mistake escape the mint? How could anyone have overlooked it? But the truth was, thousands of these coins likely left the presses, scattered into circulation, hidden in change jars, tucked into drawers, or even tossed aside as worthless pocket change, and that's what makes this story so powerful. Because the next 1992 wide AM penny could be discovered by someone just like you, but the real shock came when one of these coins crossed the auction block. The bidding began slowly, a few thousand here, a few thousand there. But then the competition ignited. Collectors recognized what they were looking at. This was no ordinary penny. This was history. The price skyrocketed past 100,000, then 200,000, and finally, the hammer came down at nearly $1 million. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Word spread like wildfire. Dealers scrambled to check their stockpiles. Everyday people began dumping out jars of pennies, holding each coin to the light, searching for that elusive gap between the A and the M. And yet, the 1992 wide AM remained almost impossible to find, and most people will never even know they held one in their hand. Because the difference is so subtle, so microscopic, that unless you know exactly what to look for, you'll pass it by without even noticing. And here's where the suspense deepens. Imagine being the person who unknowingly spends $1 million penny at a gas station, sliding it across the counter with no second thought. That's not a fantasy, it's reality. It has already happened. Collectors estimate that fewer than 20 confirmed examples of the 1992 wide AM exist today. That's rarer than some of the most legendary coins in U.S. history. Scarcity alone is what drives its astronomical value. And because so many remain undiscovered, the chance of finding one is still alive. But this isn't just about money. It's about history. It's about the idea that the smallest mistake in a U.S. mint engraving room can ripple across decades and turn into a modern treasure hunt. It's about the thrill of discovery, the heartbeat that races when you realize you're holding something the rest of the world overlooked. Dealers have described the 1992 D White AM as one of the most electrifying modern errors ever produced. Collectors whisper about it at conventions. Some call it the holy grail of Lincoln pennies. But what makes this story even more unbelievable is that the clue is hiding in plain sight. Look closely at the word America on the reverse side of a 1992 D penny. On the common version, the letters A and M nearly touch, that's called the close AM. But on the rare error, there's a noticeable space between the A and the M, the White AM. That space is worth over $1 million, and yet, here's the danger. Thousands of collectors confuse it with other years where the White AM is more common and worth only a fraction. 1998, 1999, 2000, these also have White AM varieties, but they won't make you rich. Only the 1992 and 1992 D White AM pennies carry that life-changing value. Think about that for a moment. Two tiny letters, spaced just slightly apart, stand between you and $1 million, but the story doesn't end here. Some experts believe there are still undiscovered rolls of 1992 D White AM pennies sitting untouched in bank vaults, estate sales, and private hoards. Some could be sitting in coin jars passed down from parents and grandparents. And with each passing year, as more examples are found, the remaining survivors only become more valuable. Imagine the shock of an ordinary person, opening a dusty coin album, sliding a penny from 1992 out of its sleeve, and realizing they've been holding onto a fortune without even knowing it. These aren't just coins. These are stories. These are secrets. These are tiny metal miracles waiting to be revealed, and every time one surfaces, the world takes notice. Auctions explode. Headlines scream. Collectors rush. Because these moments remind us that history is not locked away in museums, it's hiding in our pockets, waiting to be discovered, because somewhere out there, another 1992 D White AM is waiting to be found. Maybe it's in your home. Maybe it's in your wallet. Maybe it's already slipped through your hands once before, and if you find it, you'll join the handful of lucky people who turned a penny into $1 million. The secret is in the spacing of the letters. Close AM is ordinary. White AM is life-changing. Check every 1992 D penny you see. Hold it to the light. Look closely. Don't make the mistake of spending what could be the most valuable coin you'll ever touch, because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but instead, it shocked the world when it sold for over $1 million. At first glance, it looks like nothing more than an ordinary penny. A coin you might hand to a cashier without a second thought. But hidden within this 1998 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is a secret so rare, so mysterious, that collectors have described it as one of the most baffling errors in U.S. coin history. And tonight, you're going to discover exactly why this coin, the size of your fingertip, can be worth up to $1.2 million, but here's where it gets strange. The year is 1998. America is preparing for the new millennium, technology is booming, and the U.S. Mint is running at full speed. Billions of pennies are struck that year, all bearing the image of Abraham Lincoln. And yet, somewhere deep in the process, something went wrong. How could a wheat penny design, long discontinued decades earlier, mysteriously reappear on a modern coin? Collectors couldn't believe their eyes. But it happened. And when the first of these hybrid errors surfaced, whispers rippled through the coin world. Could it be real? Could a 1998 penny actually carry the wheat reverse, last seen officially in 1958? And here's the part that stunned even the experts. These weren't just worn-out counterfeits. These were authentic U.S. Mint errors, struck by mistake, and released into circulation where anyone could find one. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One man, an average collector flipping through his pocket change, pulled out what looked like a strange penny. The reverse design didn't match the date on the obverse. He thought at first it was a prank coin or a cheap replica. But when he brought it to a trusted dealer, the truth was revealed. He was holding one of the rarest transitional error coins in modern U.S. history. That single penny eventually fetched hundreds of thousands at auction, and here's the shocking part: experts now estimate that only a handful of these coins exist. Maybe less than 10. Which means if you're holding one, you're essentially holding a once-in-a-lifetime lottery ticket in the palm of your hand. But what makes this coin truly worth millions? The answer lies in the tiniest details so small that most people would miss them. The obverse shows the familiar Lincoln portrait, with the date 1998 and no mint mark beneath it, meaning it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. But the reverse, that's where the miracle happens. Instead of the Lincoln Memorial design used in 1998, you'll see the classic wheat ears, the same design retired in 1958. Think about that for a moment. A design separated by 4 decades. A mistake that should have been impossible. And yet, there it is, in living copper. Collectors were shocked. Dealers rushed to get their hands on it. And as word spread, auctions became battlegrounds, with bidders throwing down staggering sums of money. 1 penny, one coin smaller than your thumbnail, sold for nearly $1 million. Another, in pristine condition, was estimated at over $1.2 million, but here's where things get even more chilling. Most of these coins are still out there. Not in museums, not locked away in glass cases, but potentially in ordinary collections, dusty jars, and forgotten drawers. Every time you see a 1998 penny, there's a chance, slim but real, that it could be this $1 million mistake. Some numismatists believe leftover wheat reverse dies were mistakenly paired with a 1998 obverse die during testing. Others argue it was an accidental mule error, created when incompatible dies were combined. The mint has never officially explained how it occurred, which only fuels the mystery. But here's the truth you need to know: when the mint makes an error of this magnitude, it usually destroys the coins before they ever leave the facility. For even one to slip out is rare. For several to escape into circulation? That's historic, and it's not just history. It's opportunity. Imagine reaching into your pocket and pulling out a penny that changes your life. That's exactly what happened for one man in the Midwest. He discovered his 1998 penny with a wheat reverse and a handful of change from a vending machine. At first, he almost spent it without looking twice. But something about the design caught his eye. That decision earned him more money than most people will ever see from a single coin. But what happened next will leave you stunned, because every time one of these rare 1998 no mint mark wheat pennies surfaces, it sets off a frenzy. Collectors call their dealers. Auctions light up with bids. And the price climbs higher and higher. Why? Because rarity drives value. And when you're talking about a transitional error this extreme, the sky's the limit. First, check the date. It must be 1998. Next, look closely at the reverse. If you see the Lincoln Memorial, it's just a normal penny. But if you see the 2 wheat stalks curving along the edges with 1 cent boldly in the center, you may have just discovered the impossible coin. And one more thing, make sure the obverse has no mint mark. That detail confirms it was struck in Philadelphia. Be warned though, counterfeits exist. Many fakes are made by altering the reverse of a common penny or casting replicas. But experts can always spot them. That's why if you think you found one, you should immediately have it authenticated by a professional grading service. Collectors were stunned when the first of these coins surfaced. Dealers were rushing. Auction houses were whispering about record-breaking prices. And now, as more people learn the truth, the race to find them has never been hotter. And here's the final question I'll leave you with tonight. What if this exact penny, the 1998 no mint mark wheat Lincoln penny worth up to $1.2 million, is sitting in your drawer right now? Because the truth is, it could be this is not just a coin. It's a miracle of minting. A once-in-a-lifetime error that slipped through history and landed in the hands of ordinary people. And if you're lucky enough to find it, your life could change in an instant. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up lost forever, tossed aside like any other penny. But when it resurfaced, it shocked the entire coin world, selling for a fortune that could change anyone's life. I'm talking about the 1960 D mint mark wheat Lincoln penny, a coin so mysterious, so rare, that in pristine condition it can be worth up to $1.3 million. And the best part? It could still be hiding in your pocket change right now. Back in 1960, something strange happened at the Denver Mint. Millions of pennies rolled off the presses, but a small group carried a secret. The dies, the very tools used to stamp Lincoln's face and the date, weren't perfectly aligned. Some coins bore doubled features. Others carried subtle size variations in the numbers of the date, especially the number 0. Collectors call them the small date and large date varieties. And while most Americans spent them without a second thought, a few eagle-eyed collectors realized these coins were not ordinary at all, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One collector discovered that certain 1960 pennies actually carried doubling so sharp, so undeniable, that it became one of the most dramatic varieties ever seen on a Lincoln cent. The letters "In Liberty" and "In God We Trust" appeared to shimmer, as if stamped twice. To the naked eye it might look like a trick of the light, but to a trained collector, it was a signal of something extraordinary. Dealers were shocked. Whispers spread at coin shows, as collectors scrambled to confirm the discovery. Some dismissed it as nonsense at first, until undeniable proof surfaced in the form of sharply struck doubled dies. And then the rush began. Suddenly, everyday pocket change held the potential for a life-changing find, but this was just the beginning. Because hidden within the 1960 Denver mintage was a twist that few could have predicted: the small date versus large date varieties. At first glance, these looked nearly identical. But if you look closer, the shape of the 6 and the height of the 0 reveal the difference. Most people never notice. Yet this tiny detail is why some of these pennies are worth thousands, and in rare conditions, even hundreds of thousands. In fact, a flawless 1960 small date penny once stunned collectors at auction, climbing toward a price no one thought possible, and here's where it gets even more unbelievable. A single specimen, preserved in perfect condition with an extraordinary strike, crossed the $1 million mark, catapulting the 1960 penny into legend. Imagine that. A coin that most people would hand over at a gas station, suddenly worth over $1 million, but the mystery runs deeper still. In 1960, the U.S. Mint didn't just make minor adjustments, they actually re-engraved dies to fix inconsistencies. That means there are overlapping varieties, large date over small date over large date, and doubled dies scattered among them. For collectors, this is a treasure map hidden in plain sight. Every coin could be a clue. Every detail could mean the difference between a common penny and $1 million miracle. Collectors were stunned as more varieties surfaced. Stories circulated of ordinary Americans discovering strange-looking pennies in their change jars. Some brushed them off. Others rushed them to dealers, and those who acted quickly found themselves holding coins worth life-changing sums. Can you imagine pulling a penny from your drawer and learning it's worth more than a house? But here's the catch. Most people miss the signs. And that's why the 1960 penny continues to shock the coin world. Dealers are still on the hunt. Collectors are obsessed. Because every year, more hidden gems are uncovered, tucked away in bankrolls, coin jars, or even forgotten piggy banks. They're jaw-dropping. A single 1960 small date doubled die penny, in near perfect condition, sent shockwaves when it sold for hundreds of thousands. Then another surfaced, climbing even higher. The whispers turned to headlines: could these humble pennies really be worth over $1 million? The answer was yes. The secret lies in rarity, condition, and detail. The small date variety, with its distinct 0, is scarcer than its large date counterpart. Combine that with a double die error, and suddenly you have a coin unlike almost anything else in circulation. And when that coin is preserved without scratches, with blazing red luster as if it just left the mint, you're looking at a piece of history worth staggering sums. Collectors call these coins miracles. Dealers rush to bid. And ordinary people who stumble upon them experience a moment of disbelief that changes everything. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and it could happen again, but what happened next made the story even more unbelievable. Reports began surfacing of hoards, entire rolls of 1960 pennies discovered in old bank boxes. Some contained nothing unusual. But others held the small date varieties, hidden away for decades. And each time one of these hoards hit the market, the coin community buzzed with speculation: would another $1 million penny appear? Imagine holding one of these coins. Imagine the weight of history in your hand, a simple cent that survived over 60 years, carrying secrets most people will never notice. Imagine the heart-stopping moment when you realize the numbers on the date don't look quite right, and then learning it could change your life forever. And here's the part you need to know. How do you identify the exact 1960 penny that could be worth a fortune? Start with the date. On the small date variety, the 6 appears taller and the 0 looks smaller, almost perfectly round. Compare that to the large date, where the 0 is taller and the 6 sits lower. Then check for doubling. Look closely at Liberty, In God We Trust, and the date itself. If the letters look like they've been stamped twice, you may be staring at a doubled die. Finally, examine the condition. The closer to mint state, with bright red luster and no worth, the higher the value. This is the kind of detail that separates ordinary pennies from million-dollar treasures. Most people will overlook it. Most people will spend it without a thought. But the few who recognize it will never forget the moment they discovered what they were holding. So check your pocket change. Dig through your old jars. Search the forgotten drawers where pennies have been waiting for decades. Because somewhere out there, another 1960 DeWitt Lincoln penny is waiting to be found. And when it surfaces, it could shock the coin world all over again. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million.